YeahThisMilk, starring
Ryan J. When they finally replaced the dead white men on the side of Stone Mountain with a carving of our Lords and Saviors Big Boy and Andre 3000, they will then have to replace all police cars with Cadillacs on 64-inch rims and all officers with niggas who mind their own business until you mind theirs. Every judge will look like Farnsworth Bentley, open their umbrellas and dance in their robes to the rhythm of every declaration of innocence. And this time, Atlanta, all of my niggas are innocent. This time, churches, every congregation of niggas singing, I'm sorry, Miss Jackson. I am no longer a martyr. I am no longer a void. This is a new birth, a second lease on life. God, the black woman in the sky that she is, swathed in shea butter and an Erykah Badu head wrap, will smile on this day. We'll watch with joy as we live into tomorrow, as we throw our heads back and shake our naps like Polaroid pictures and declare this Georgia day to be ours. A hey ya to the ancestors, a hey ya to the homies, a hey ya to the folk who were buried in the earth too soon, and the good old boys won't get it. But complain about the monument, about how we're erasing history or some shit, as if this type of erasure ain't activism, as if they don't complain about participation trophies, and if this damn mountain ain't one big award to the niggas who lost the war, and they'll try their best to invalidate our joy. And to that we'll say, hush that fuss, everybody move to the back, to the back, to the back. Thanks.
That's dope.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, so where were you raised, man? Tell us about where you was raised and how you was raised.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Atlanta, so like in the Stone Mountain area. So actually around here, funny enough, my family used to live off of Stone Mountain Industrial, over like probably like 5 to 10 minutes away from Pine Ridge. We were there for a minute, then we moved out to Gwinnett and lived in Gwinnett for a while. And so was out there in the suburbs. Really felt like, I don't know, it's weird being a part of the suburbs of Atlanta because like you claim Atlanta, but Atlanta doesn't really claim you like that.
Most definitely.
And so it's like being OTP, people are like, well, you really don't know what it's like to be a part of that culture, but it's like you still get the culture, you're just in a different place a little bit. And then, yeah, moved from Atlanta to Macon to go to school. And I went to school at Mercer University and was there for about 5 years, and then moved back up here after I graduated and was back in Gwinnett for a little bit, but then recently moved out here. Back out to Stone Mountain. Just like I just feel the most comfortable in this area. I feel like, you know, I'm close to Decatur, and Decatur's like where I like to hang out at and everything, and close to Edgewood too, and that's you know, kind of my stomping grounds a little bit too. So, you know, just kind of, I don't know, it's kind of been like this weird relationship with like growing up in the city and then also feeling like I have to like relearn what the city is and what it means to me and like put that in context and stuff. But like I feel like the poetry scene has really helped me get that context and really helped me connect to the city itself, because it's like I found my group of people who are in the city, who are doing things in the city, and who are very much a part of Atlanta and its culture. So it's like, okay, well, by establishing that bridge and that relationship with them, I've kind of like, you know, really established that connection myself. You know what I'm saying? That I didn't really have as much of growing up because we were on the outskirts, you know, when we were kind of like outside of the city. But it's still weird talking about Atlanta and talking about how I relate to Atlanta, because it's like I talk to most people nowadays who are here in the city, and a lot of them aren't even from here, and they aren't from around here. They didn't grow up around here, so it's like even being OTP, you know, growing up, people don't really understand what that means because they don't have that context of like growing up here the same way that, you know, some other people do. And I mean, and I think there's a difference when you've been here for like 20 something years, and you know, that's like, okay, well, you understand because you've been here for that long. But a lot of these people that are here now are, you know, only been here 1, 2, you know, maybe up to 5 years, and then, so it's really weird. The culture, the scene's changing, but it's nice to finally feel like I'm a part of it, you know.
And when you say OTP week, give me break that down.
Yeah, I mean outside the perimeter. So there's like, yeah, so 285 is really the perimeter, and so I lived along 78. So 78 comes into 285, and connects that way. But a lot of people don't consider the things. I think you get up to Memorial Drive. You can probably get to Memorial Drive off of 78, and people would still consider you kind of like a part of that inner Atlanta. But like once you get past like Memorial Drive and you start getting a little bit further out, people are like, okay, I don't even know where you at. Right, you know, like, yeah. But even though it's weird because Gwinnett County is like one of the biggest counties of the metro Atlanta area, but it's like, it's still like OTP, quote unquote, except for like Tucker and like you start getting into Norcross and stuff.
I feel like Saha the Prince really pushed Stone Mountain in his lyrics a lot. Right.
Yeah. Well, and who really like made me proud of Stone Mountain was Donald Glover and Childish Gambino, for those people who know him that way. And that like he had the whole mixtape that was dedicated to Stone Mountain, started talking about Cascade, like, you know, just like really just stuff that was entrenched in that area. And so I'm like, oh, okay, cool. It's nice to feel like, you know, I'm a part of this now, because, you know, people are claiming it now, and that's like a whole thing. So that felt good, you know.
And tell me the difference in your mind from Atlanta to OTP. Tell me, because you said earlier, you said that, you know, you felt like an outsider.
Right.
Explain that dynamic of your thought process. Go in detail for me.
Yeah, so like there's this, and I think it happens everywhere, right? There's this shared culture that comes from living in an area, right? Where it's like, oh, we've all been to the same places. We all fraternize in the same places, fellowship in the same places. And we have like these, like, for us, these cultural touchstones. Like, it's like, oh, I know that, you know, if I can think of to name something, I'm gonna go back to like, you know, Cascade or whatever, or like Golden Glide or something. It's like, oh, I know these places that exist in my city. Where like people who are from like, you know, north outside the perimeter will like talk about the Big Chicken, that KFC.
No,
they'll be like, yeah, they'll be like, oh, I know specifically like that area. That area holds a lot of memory for me. You know, da 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 da. People talk about Edgewood. It's like, oh, Edgewood holds a lot of memory for me because of the experiences that I've had there. And so like being outside the perimeter, it's like you have to commute to get to those spaces, right? You have to commute to get to Piedmont Park, to get over off of Ponce, you know, to get into the West End. Like you have to commute to get to those places. So it's like you have experiences with those places because you are living outside the perimeter, but like you don't have as many experiences as the people who actually like are in the city. So it's like you can communicate those experiences and you can talk about, you know, whatever shared culture you have there, but it's not as in depth as two people who have like lived in that area. You know what I'm saying? And who have
been entrenched in it.
Right, exactly. Who have that large breadth of experience. And so it's not like anybody makes you feel bad.
It's your own insecurity.
Yeah, really, honestly speaking. It's like, it comes the second somebody asks me where I went to high school. Right. That's when it comes out. It's like, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm from Atlanta. They're like, oh, for real? I'm from Atlanta. And then I'm like, shit, I know what's coming next.
I'm caught.
Yeah, this is it. And they're like, oh yeah, what high school you go to? And I was like, okay, but here, listen, let me tell you the truth. And then it becomes a whole thing, right? And it becomes a whole discussion at that point. And then they like understand, right? It's not like anybody like clowns you or nothing. They might clown you for being like, oh, I'm from Atlanta. And when they're like, no, you're from the metro area. Like, but like ultimately, nobody from outside of here is going to clown you. And most people in the city now aren't going to clown you because most people aren't even from here anymore. Right. You know what I'm saying? And so it's really my own insecurity jumping out, you know, more so than anything else.
Can I tell you a secret? I don't think a lot of people know this that lives in the county or on the outskirts of the city. I'm from Baltimore, right? Yeah. But most of the people from the city want to live out there where y'all live at. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, most of us, we want big houses and we want peace of mind. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we don't want to be dealing with the bullshit. Going to the store, might get killed going to the store.
Nobody wants any.
Nobody wants to deal with that. So, you know, I think the county have the insecurities of wanting to live in the city, but the people in the city have the insecurities of they want to live in the county also. Right. You know what I mean? Because everybody want to be safe. Right. You know what I mean?
Ultimately when it comes down to it.
That's what it comes down to. You know what I mean? Yeah. And here's the other thing. You know, based on your poem in the beginning, even though you lived out here, you still understand the nuances of the things that we go through as a black man. Right. So, you know,
we still have our shared experience in that other way, right? It's like, we're not cut off from one another just because of where we live necessarily. It's like that does inform some of how we see, you know, the world and how we see the spaces we exist in. But it's like ultimately, like, we still have this bridge with one another because of our other experiences. And nothing's stopping that. Yeah, no, I agree with you.
It's funny we talking about what we talking about now because I had to start. Could I be creating memes? And a meme that I haven't put it out yet. But it said, it doesn't matter if you straight, gay, short, fat, dark skin, light skin, county, city, what religion you believe in. If you black, the police pull you, they don't care about none of that shit.
Yeah.
You a nigga.
Yeah.
And as simple as that.
Right.
It's not, you got to make sure that no matter what you are, you got to make sure you use your black card as the primary focus of, I would say, good and black. I would say being because you could be black, but if you deal with another black person and he a piece of shit or she a piece of shit, that goes out the window, right? But I would say black first and then good or bad second.
Right.
And those are things that could keep you centered on, just treating your people a certain way.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Treating everybody like that.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But my question to you is, so when did you start writing? How did you...
Yeah.
No, you know what? Let's not go that fast. Let's slow it down some.
Okay.
Tell me about your parents.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So my dad's from San Antonio, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
He met my mom in the Air Force. So she was 19 years old in the Air Force. He was 5 years older than her, so 24, and everything when they met each other. And then, so my mom was from Gary, Indiana. Freddie
Gibbs.
yeah, she was out there. And the Jackson, Jackson family, all them. Grew up there, and everything. And then they both met in the Air Force and got married. And so my mom is real charismatic, just real a people person, very extroverted out there. And growing up, her whole motto to me was very much when you enter a room, you want to make sure everybody knows your name before you leave. Mm-hmm. And not even in the sense that you're introducing yourself to everybody, but everybody better be able to recognize you by your accomplishments.
Most stuff.
By the stuff that you're doing and by the work that you're putting in. And so that's always been her motto for me is if you're going in here, make sure they know who Ryan Jones is. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of how I've carried myself, just based on my interactions with her, right? And then my dad, on the other hand, very, very much the opposite. Very introverted, doesn't show a lot of emotion. It's your stereotypical man, you know what I'm saying? Very stoic, and is not very emotional unless he has to be. Mm-hmm. And then even then, is still very reserved with that emotion, and everything. And that's led to some contention. I've got some feelings about that, obviously, but just because my mom is sensitive and very much wears her emotions on her sleeve, mm-hmm. and so I'm very much the same. Whereas I'm an emotional person, and so not being at odds with another man who is not as emotional as I am, who's my dad, is okay, word, I got to learn how to kind of work with you on that, because I know we're not going to see each other eye to eye on that. And so they got divorced when I was young. And his thing to me was always the women are always going to be there. Go to school, finish school, do that, don't worry about girls, worry about getting a job, worry about, getting your education, getting a job, making money. That was his whole thing.
Worry about structure first.
Right, exactly.
All right.
And so it's it's interesting getting that perspective of get your shit together, and then the other one of make sure everybody knows who you are, and then having to combine that together and mm-hmm. be okay, I have to be focused on building myself up while also showcasing that to other people. And I guess that kind of becomes the performer at some point, where it's okay, all of this, right, all of how I interact with people, all of what I'm doing at some point becomes performance to get me to wherever I'm going next, right? It's and I mean, you can develop genuine connections with people, and I do. I very much have genuine friendships and genuine connections with folk. And I very much value when people are being genuine to me and everything. But ultimately too, I do know that this all has to go somewhere. And where are we going? How do we get there? And etc. So I'm always thinking in that sense of how do I get from point A to point B? How can I get there? And then who can I bring along with me to get me there too? And then who can I affect in that? What good can I do when I'm doing stuff? And how can I transform my life and transform the lives of others while doing that, and make sure that also everybody recognizes that I'm doing this work, and doing that. So that's both of their influences have kind of become something similar to that. I don't know.
Let me ask you this: based on what you just said, do you feel like you're trying to make both of them happy based on what you just said? Because it seemed like it seemed like they gave you a template, and you trying to
fit into it.
So not fit into it. It's trying to almost. Yeah. I wouldn't say fit into it. I feel like you're trying to be you, but at the same time make them happy based on what they said to you.
Oh yeah, and that's most definitely that's. I feel like that's a lot of it, right? Is that my parents are very influential on me, mm-hmm. And so a lot of it's trying to figure out what I can do that makes them happy too, but also makes me happy and fulfilled. Like I'm not gonna put their needs and their wants above mine.
Most definitely.
You know, I'm gonna do what I need to do for myself and what I want to do for myself. But like ultimately, I would love it if our vision and our goals aligned. Because if they did, then that means I'm doing something right. I feel. Because it's like they have what's best for me in mind. It's not like they want to see me fail.
Most definitely.
It's like, so it's like both of them, like you said, cut out this template for me, and it's like, okay, well, what bits and pieces of each of their goals and visions can I piece together into my picture as well, and try to figure out what I want to do with myself, And so it's become weird in the sense that like, so I don't know if you know this. So last year, I graduated. When I graduated school, I graduated with with 2 degrees in engineering. And so I was working in engineering for a minute and realized I hated it. I was working in consulting, so I was working really, really long hours. And I was like, oh man, I hate working, these super long hours. I'm working like some weeks it's 40 hours a week, some weeks it's 80 hours a week. They're asking me to like dedicate my life to this like field of work. But here I am doing this poetry stuff that I love doing, that makes me happy. Being on stage, it's just like being on stage is unlike anything, right? And it's like it really you feel powerful almost, but not in like a weird way. And it's like, oh, I command this room, I command this audience, and they're like giving me their energy, and I'm vibing with that. But also, I know my family wants me to do this engineering thing because that's what I know I'm good at it, and I can do that too. So. What do I need to do? And so last year I decided ultimately for my sanity, I quit my job and did poetry for a year. And just did poetry for a year, was touring everywhere. I was never in the city. I was only in the city for like 2 weeks at a time, honestly speaking, and then I'd be out back on the road doing something else. And I needed that time though to like really dive into something that I wanted to do rather than what they wanted me to do. Because me and my mom got in arguments like every day. I was like, why are you doing this? Like, da-da-da-da-da. Like, I really think you need to go back to engineering. And I'm like, listen, it'll be there if I need it to be there. Like, but I got to try this thing out first to see if it works. And ultimately, like, I ended up getting an agent out of it, but I still had to go back to engineering. And so now I'm on my own terms, though, working on my own terms. I went back on my own terms, like, okay, I'm going to do this and still do the poetry thing full time. Just like, I'm just going to have to figure out a way to incorporate them and, like, make it work somehow. And so that's what I'm doing right now. Like I work for the state, and then I use my PTO days to do poetry stuff. Like if I need to go somewhere, if I need to fly out somewhere, I take a PTO day and I fly out and I come back, and then I'm back at work again. And they know it at work too. Like I tell them, like I'm like, okay, listen, y'all, this isn't the only thing I'm doing, and I need y'all to know that. Whereas before, when I was working in engineering, I didn't want anybody to know that I was doing poetry. Because I didn't want them to think that I was like committed doing something else, like my interests were elsewhere. Now I'm straight up with it, like I'm like.
But there's nothing wrong with your interest being supported. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and I didn't realize that at the time.
Yeah, you're not a slave to them. You're a slave to yourself. Your purpose.
Right. But that's what it felt like at the time, and working so much, and then also like a slave to the expectations of my parents too.
Most
right?
definitely.
Where it's
Most
like,
definitely.
okay, they expect me to be successful in this way. And so, like, I gotta, do XYZ thing.
I know they didn't say this, but I don't, as a parent, I don't want my kids to be successful in a way I want them to be successful. I want them to be just successful.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because once we get poetry where it's supposed to be financially, we get the money we deserve.
Right.
And your parents see that, then they're like, oh. shit.
Listen, and I'm hoping you're 110% correct.
We're gonna do
it. Yeah. And I'm hoping, because that's like, I have a couple of friends who do like the college circuit and stuff, and I'll be like, yeah, I booked 60 shows this year at like $1,500 a show, da-da-da-da-da. And my mom's still coming up to me being like, so where's this poetry thing going?
What's up?
And it's like, what? Like, I'm out here doing crazy stuff, with this and like doing the work, and then you still are somehow like confused as to what I'm doing. And I don't even think it's because they don't want you to be successful, and I think it's just because they don't understand what it is, right?
I also believe, am I cutting you off?
No, you're
I also believe it's because their mind has been conditioned to do what the system tell them to do.
Right.
And when you're doing what's outside, when you're living outside of the scope of what the system tell you to do, it's not a track record for success.
Right.
You got to create your success.
Right.
And when you got to create your success, that road haven't been paved yet, right? But the thing is like, Mom, Dad, if you come see what I do and you see this energy, like you said it earlier, and this is my metaphor I came up with. When you on stage, it's like you taking the souls of everybody out there in the audience and put them in your veins and shooting up. It's a high you cannot come down from.
It's crazy stuff. Yeah.
So for you to go to that and then go back to work Monday, it's a mind fuck.
Yeah,
because it's a mind fuck for me.
It's two different experiences, right? And it's like if you've been doing that all your life, and that's what you know, is the going 9 to 5, coming home, cooking dinner, going to sleep, waking up the next day 9 to 5, and then waiting for the weekends. If that's what you know how to do, and that's what you're used to doing, that's what you're going to expect everybody else around you to be doing too. And you're not going to really have a grasp or an understanding of when somebody's doing something that's different.
Right.
And so, yeah, like for one of us, it's like, okay, I definitely understand somebody being like, yeah, it's hard for me to go back to this desk job because I know what that's like. I've been out on the road and not had to go back to the desk job the next day and been like, oh, I'm just waiting for this next show. And then went like, it's like, oh, I'm tired right now. I'm on the road. I'm tired. I'm feeling like lonely a little bit. But then you get on stage and it's like, whoa, I know why I'm here again. And it's like waking up every day over and over again and like being refreshed and feeling new. And then having to come back to this where it's like, okay, I got to drag myself back into work. Like, and that's, yeah, there's a difference. There's a massive difference.
It's a hell of a difference.
Oh, yeah.
And not just that. Right now, you have, what degrees you have?
Bachelor's and master's.
So right now, you have a bachelor's and master's, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't have any degrees at all.
Right.
I don't have any certifications or nothing like that. But I have 2 books.
Right.
So right now, if I had kids and you had kids and we both died, which one is more valuable?
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? So we got to make sure that we articulate what we're doing to our family and friends in a way. Well, first of all, if y'all don't understand it, fuck it. You just don't understand it.
Right.
But we got to make them understand, like, you are saving lives out here.
Right.
You understand that?
Right.
Like, when you say a certain poem,
right,
and people come up to you and they shake your hand and they look in your eyes and say, thank you.
Right.
It's a different feeling than somebody saying, thank you for fixing the goddamn computers.
Right.
I mean,
Exactly. No, you're not wrong at all. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a difference there. Yeah.
So did any of your mother or father write, or anybody in your family write?
So everybody claims they used to write.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
But you never
I
hear.
used to write poems. But outside of that, I've never really seen any. My mom claims to get my writing ability from her, so I'm like, okay. I tell people that. So.
I don't know. The way you talk to your mother, she seemed like she got that seasoning. So she might even write for real.
You might not be wrong at all. Yeah, and I think that's really what it comes down to is people don't think that's a viable option, so they don't explore it as much as like somebody that does. And so it's like it's very possible that she wrote some stuff down. It's just not saved anywhere because she probably didn't think she could do anything with it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem with growing up and nobody really like feeding that for you.
Most definitely.
I had a lot of people that even though there's been some doubt, I've had a lot of people that like fed this like, this want to perform and this want to write. Mm-hmm. They've been like, listen, if you want to do this, you got to do it.
Most definitely.
And whether it be family or friends or like mentors or whatever, it's like they fed that. And I don't necessarily think people fed that in her or fed that in my grandmother or my dad or something like that. My dad loves to play music.
Mm-hmm.
Dude has played bass every day since he was 16. You know what I'm saying? And I can't tell you if he's ever thought about becoming a professional bass player, and I don't know if he would ever tell me that because I don't think he's ever thought it to be like a viable option. I think he probably just thought it was like cool to like play around for a minute, and I don't know if anybody ever fed that in him. So it's like
the thing is funny. We were talking about this maybe like 2 minutes ago. The thing I think people don't understand is like if it's a path not created, you got to just create.
You got to create it for yourself.
You know what I mean? So the way I look at poetry is like this. First of all, I'm not in it. It's not a lick for me.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not for the money.
Right.
I just love it. I don't love it. I'm in love with it. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's tattooed on my hand. You know what I mean? Like, I love poetry. Right?
Yeah.
So the thing is like, first of all, it's 2 ways I see it. One, I'm not in it just for the money. I do want money. That'd be a lie if I say I don't want money because I want to do this shit full time. Right? Just like anybody else who really in love with it.
Right.
But it's 2 things at stake. One, if you look at the comedy scene, if you look at the hip hop scene, at one time it was no structure for it. Right. And then when structure came in, millions come in, billions come in.
Right.
So the only thing we got to do as poets is create the structure and keep pushing the shit. And then when the money come in, we at the forefront getting the money.
Yeah.
You got to have a vision for yourself.
Right.
You can't be just a poet. You got, like when you spoke earlier, you said know how to get the A to B to Z.
Right.
If you don't have that in your mind as a poet, you're not going to never get there.
You're not going to get there.
You're going to be hitting open mics and that's that.
Yeah.
You know
Forever. I mean? Yeah.
When did you start writing?
2012. So I started, well, I'm going to say what everybody who's ever written something says. I've been writing for forever, right? Mm-hmm. And so I always tell the story. So when I first started writing, I wrote raps, and they were just bad raps. And like I thought I could rap, and I was writing raps down, and I was like, oh no, I can't actually do that. And so I stopped for a second because I realized they were bad. And because it turns out I was actually writing poems. That's what I was doing. I was writing poems that were like free form, flow, what's it called? Flow of consciousness poems, where it's just like I'm just writing stuff down, whatever comes to my mind, whatever. And so I got to school, and in 2012, there was this Martin Luther King Day competition where they were like, we're giving $100 out to the person with like the best poem, best speech, whatever. And I was like, cool, I know how to write poems. I wrote raps back in the day. They rhymed. I can write a poem, da-da-da-da-da. So I write a poem out for this Martin Luther King Day competition, and I go and I compete and I lose, and which is like fine, whatever. And but at that competition, I heard this group of people called the Black Poets perform, and Black was an acronym that stood for believing, love, and cherishing knowledge. And I heard the Black Poets perform, and they start performing these poems. It's like spoken word, and I'm like, I didn't realize you could do that with words. And I didn't think you could and I was feeling some type of way. I was like, I didn't know you could feel this way about words. I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go home. I'm going to write 3 poems a day for 3 months, and until I feel like I'm as good as they are. And I was like, that's like, I heard these poems, and I know how good those poems are. I'm going to keep on writing until I feel like these poems that I'm writing down are as good as theirs, or at least close to it, right? Because I know that takes time, right? So that's what I did. I would go to my dorm, I sit down, and I write poems when I was walking to class. I write poems when I was sitting in my dorm room. I write poems in class. I was just writing and just writing and just writing. And then there was another competition that came up. It's like a talent show, and I'm talking to my friends, and I'm like, which poem should I perform? And they, I could do a crowd twisting thing, and they all choose like the same poem. And I'm like, cool, I'm gonna go and perform this poem at this talent show. So I performed the poem there, and the Black Poets happened to be there. And they're like, yo, that poem was dope. And I think I got second place. And they were like, yeah, the poem was dope. You should come to one of our meetings. And I was like, oh, word, bet. And so like I go to one of their meetings, and then it just kind of kicked off from there, where they were like, this is how you perform. This is how you write. This is what you should think about when you're writing. Like, this is like, they kind of like took what was for me just me just doing it, and kind of gave it structure a little bit, and really like gave me a space to like try out new stuff, and a space to kind of just like form myself. And so like, yeah, that's kind of how it happened. And then it took out from there, and then I started doing Poetry Slam in 2014, a couple years after that, where I had just been doing spoken word, just been going to open mics, performing around campus and stuff, and performing around Macon. And then my mentor at the time, Mike Scott, really great guy. He's out of Macon. He went to Albany State. And he was like, hey, if you want to get better at this poetry stuff, you should think about doing Poetry Slam. He's like, that's the thing. He's like, I don't think poetry is necessarily about competition, but the special thing about competition when you're doing poetry is that it allows you to compare yourself to other poets. And it puts you in a space to where you have to think about, one, what poems work for the audience that you're in front of, and then two, what works in a poem, and what gets reactions out of people, and like what gets people to feel something. And so like, I went and competed in my first Poetry Slam, and he also told me to do theater too. So I did a couple shows. He was like, yeah, the theater thing will help you like with choreography and like figuring stuff out or whatever. And I was like, cool. And so yeah, I went and did a Poetry Slam, and I got first place in the first Poetry Slam I ever did. And I was like, okay, cool. Where do we go next? And then I went to a college tournament for Poetry Slam, and my team placed 20th in the nation for spoken word or whatever, for collegiate spoken word. And so I was like, cool. Well, I saw how good, I thought I was good for Macon, and then I see how good all these other people are that I've never heard of before, that I've only seen on YouTube. Bet it's time to start writing again. And so I got that feeling, and I started writing more and writing more, and then it kind of like starts cascading and becomes this big like snowball where it's like, cool, I'm like meeting all these new people with new ideas, new perspectives, and new writing that I've never heard before that I think is amazing. So how can I take what I have and just keep on moving forward and keep on building up until I have something that I think is like, one, me, and then two, like good, you know, something that's good enough. Because I look at all the stuff that I thought was good when I was writing it, and it's decent, right? It's like good for where I was at. But I like at the time I thought it was amazing. And so like I'm thinking about like where I am right now. I think the shit I'm writing right now is great. I think it's phenomenal, right? But I know 2 years in the future, I'm gonna be like, yo, that shit was okay.
Most definitely.
But I got better stuff right now. You know what I'm saying? And that's like, and so I'm always interested in that growth and being able to get to that next point of being like, well, that last joint was good, but like, look at this, you know? And that's kind of how the whole writing thing became, you know? I gave you the long story.
No, it's okay. My question to you is, did you ever tell the group Black, did you ever let them know that they inspired you and that's why you got to the level you was able?
Oh yeah, they all know that. They're like my brothers and sisters.
Oh, okay.
And so like, yeah, they're very much like, they know they're foundational for me, that they very much like honestly, I talk to them, you know, every couple of months and I'm like, yo, like, they're always like, yo, we're trying to do a show. And I'm like, listen, let me know. Cause like any day, anytime, I would love to perform with y'all again because like, y'all are family. Y'all have always been family and y'all are the reasons. And I told everybody always like, y'all are the reasons I kept writing. Right. And y'all are the reasons why I got to where I am. You know what I'm saying? Cause if it hadn't been without y'all, then I wouldn't have thought to like keep on doing poems outside of college. I wouldn't have done that. Mm-hmm. And I also wouldn't have thought to like, try to keep on doing competition outside of college, you know what I'm saying, and do the National Poetry Slam stuff and go further with that. And I wouldn't be where I am right now. I would just be doing engineering, and that would be the end of it, which is like cool. Yeah. And it's like that's cool. I like there's like people make money, and I'm fine with that. But also there's something more to there's something more to just making money. It's like making money is great because you need it. Because we live in a capitalistic society, right? You need money to move and maneuver, but like, if I can affect people and I can do the work that needs to be done with my words, then like I want to be doing that. I don't want to just be sitting behind a desk drafting somebody's, whatever, like, And so that's kind of where all that led, for me.
You said you went out touring. How was that? Tell us about your tours.
Oh, phew. So...
Well, first of all, what's the name of it? Because I love the name, but I'll let you say it.
Yeah, so the tour was Nobody Likes Us, But We're Here Anyway. It was me and Nate Mask, who's another poet from Atlanta. And we went out we did 2 full legs that were like a month long, and then we did a bunch of shows in between those and afterwards. Mm-hmm. So it was like, while we had like the 2 official legs, we never really stopped touring for most of 2018. Like, there was maybe like 1 month where we didn't do anything. And I think that was September of last year. Actually, nope, that's not true. Because we did like 2 weeks in September. So I think there was only like a period probably total of maybe like 1 to 2 months, like accumulating everything over time that we didn't do a show or that we didn't do anything. And it was cool, man. That first month, I'm gonna say this and then I'm gonna say something else. It was cool, that first month, like just being like, oh, word, people are coming out to see us. That's insane. Mm-hmm. Just to think like, oh, I can make a show. I can like draw people in. That's wild. And I can do this outside of Atlanta. I don't have to just be in Atlanta to make a show happen. That's insane. And I think that people are actually invested in that. And that was just wild. And the same thing like when we did the second leg and then when I did a festival or 2 afterwards too, and then we did a bunch of random shows, like the people are interested in that. And they see our faces and are like, oh, I want to come to that. That's just like, it's still hard to wrap my head around. But I will say, it is weird traveling to the West Coast and the Pacific Northwest as a Black person. Oh. And I didn't realize this because, again, I've been in Georgia my whole life. I traveled outside of Georgia and I know that there are places where there aren't as many Black people. I always recognize that. But like, it's weird going to another place for a month at a time and then being like, oh, 1, there's nobody that looks like me. 2, if there is someone that looks like me, there's only one of them.
Most of them.
Either a Black man or a Black woman or a Black person in general that like, and I have to acknowledge them when they're in the room because I'm like, nigga, I see you and I know you see me. Like here we are, right. And then it's another thing too, knowing that being the only Black person in the room, you make white people uncomfortable. and you don't even realize that you're just existing makes white people uncomfortable. But like when white people do not have to interact with black people on a regular basis, when they finally interact with a black person, they don't know how to act. And that was just like something I had to get over, and something that I had to learn was like, because so we did our first show of our tour, of our first leg of our tour. We were in Eugene, Oregon. It was a packed out house. There was one other black person there, or actually two. There were two other black people. One black person, he came in, he played a little jazz set, and then he left. And then the other black person came in after him, so I guess there's a quota. We have to replace each other. You know what I'm saying? So the other black person came in, and he was from Savannah. So I was like, how'd you end up over here anyway? You're not even from here, you're from the South. So like, whatever. But so I get in the room, and we do this poem. We do our poems, whatever. And I do a series of poems. This is like right before Black Panther came out. And so I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this poem called Blackness is Sweet, in dedication to, you know, the second coming of Black Jesus, a.k.a. Black Panther. And and people, you know, kind of do the giggle, whatever. And so we, you know, do the set, whatever. And the set's over. We get a standing ovation, and we leave to go out to the lobby. And so me and Nate, we have a dynamic set up where I like to talk. Nate doesn't like to talk much. He just likes to do his poems, get off stage, take money, you know, sell merch, whatever. That's the extent of it, really. He'll shake hands and he'll talk to you if you talk to him, but he's not really like going out of his way to talk to people.
Right.
And I love to talk to folk. I love to get people's experiences. I love to like do that type of shit. And we get out in the lobby and we're trying to do that, set up that dynamic, and literally nobody will look at me or talk to me unless I talk to them first. And it's like this room full of white people and nobody's talking to me. And I was like, oh, so like y'all don't know how to talk to me, so you're just not gonna say anything at all.
Right. Or I got something else you never thought about probably. Or they want to talk to you, but they're insecure about what other people think if they talk to you first.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead, finish.
No, and it's that extent, right? It's like they're like, yo, it's this weird energy that's happening. And I'm like, you know, if you go to those places, you know, they'll tell you straight up, they'll be like, oh yeah, we're not racist. You know, there's nothing racist about being out here. And I'm like, no, y'all don't think y'all are racist because there's no niggas around. If there was a nigga around somewhere, y'all would treat him like y'all treated me, or treat her like you treated me. Right. And so y'all don't think that's racism, but it's a very like casual, covert, like very like benevolent racism that happens that really affects people. And
psychologically.
Right, exactly. And so there was this one white dude who did come up to talk to me, and he's like wearing this like Rasta hat, and I'm talking to him, and he goes, yeah, so y'all said y'all from Atlanta, right? And I was like, yeah, you know, it's pretty cool being up here, man. It's super cold up here. We're not used to that. And he goes, yeah, you know, I've been to Atlanta before. You know the ghetto when you see it. And I was like, I'm like, what do you mean? like one, why did you feel like you could say that to me? And then two, what do you mean by that? And like, do you think all of Atlanta's ghetto? What do you think ghetto is? What do you like? What is the ghetto?
Or do you equate ghetto to being black?
To being black because you know there are multiple black people there. Like what are you saying?
Also, is it a subliminal towards me?
Right.
Because when
exactly.
you say you see me, and
right.
Yeah,
so you know, so you think I'm ghetto, what's happening? Like, what does that mean? And it's like, there's nothing wrong with living in a low income or impoverished neighborhood. But that's not the same thing as ghetto, right? And that's like, there's like this whole connotation behind it, and like that's. So I was just confused.
So hold on. Let me ask you this, because this is what I like to do to people when I talk to them, right? I know that our intellect is higher than theirs. And when I say theirs, I'm not talking about white people. I'm talking about people who are non-poets.
Right.
So did you crush them mentally?
Oh, no, I literally, because I was in this place where I was like, I don't know if I should make a scene or or how I should challenge you. But it's like, at that point, I'm like, I was so uncomfortable. I think that's where it was more so than anything else for me, that I was like, I got to check out of this conversation, dude.
Going forward, can I give you something? Please.
Yeah.
Going forward, what you do when you met with racism or anything ignorant.
Right.
Teach.
Yeah.
Don't go mad.
Yeah.
Teach in a way where as though it make them look at themselves.
Right.
Make them put the mirror to themselves and see you being ignorant. Right. And you know, you could have came back and said, you know, I felt the same way when I came here.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You could have said, I feel like, you know, when I came here, I felt like, you know, I know a trailer park when I said, but that's not who I am. I want to meet you as a person and see who you are.
Right.
That's why, as a man, I look in you, I see you got the Rasta hat. Most Rastas live in Georgia. but you had the hat on that's probably made from a person that's in Georgia.
Right.
So and you can psychologically, like I like psychologically fucking people when they try to fuck with me. Right. To show them like you don't have the intellect to match me, so don't play with me on that level. Right. And physically, you definitely don't want to go there because I will hurt you. Yeah. But I'd rather beat you up with my mind because I know I'm sharper than you. Right. Every time. Right. Right. You know what I mean? So next time you're in that situation, smash him with your intellect. Seriously. Yeah. No, yeah. Him, her, because they're not smarter than you, right? You know that already.
Right, right. And you want to get them, like I think you said, and I think that's a good point, right? Is you very much. So I try to use those moments where somebody I know is being ignorant as a teachable moment, right? But it's harder for me, particularly when it's somebody I don't know.
Because you don't know where it can go.
Because you don't know where it's going or how people are going to feel when you
get the rope.
You know what you said?
Lock the doors. Let Nick leave. Lock the doors. Be like, Nick be like, I'm sorry,
hey,
right?
Hey, bro, we're gonna have to go out of here swinging. They're gonna take both of us. Like, yeah, and that's the reality of it too. But like, I do agree with you that's like something that maybe I need to learn how to do more. Is like doing stuff on stage is cool, but if I have one of those face-to-face interactions where somebody's literally presenting themselves to me in that way, then it's like, okay, what can I do as a person right here, right now, to you heard my words before, but to like really teach you right now. Yeah. And I think that's important. Yeah, you're not wrong about that.
Because the thing is, if you want to challenge me, you want to play, you want to pull your mental sword out and challenge me. Right. I'm gonna show you you ain't dealing with a nigga. Right. See, a nigga will bust you in your fucking face. Right. Right. That's what a nigga would do. But I want to show you that I'm an intellectual and you can't fuck with me mentally. Right. You can't. Right. Yeah. You just can't. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, I mean, you could have hit him with I felt like that when I saw you happen. Now that we talking, I could tell you're a human being. I mean, there's so many ways you can crush him. There's so many ways you can do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, something.
Yeah, but it's funny because my job sent me to Maine for like 2 weeks, and I understand what you're saying. Yeah. Any black person who haven't never been in a place where as though it feel like it's no black people, and when you be around it, it's different. Yeah. It's different. Yeah. But I will say the people in Maine, they didn't make me feel weird. Maybe because I was only around work people, right? And when I went out to go eat, everybody treated me different. But I also feel like people treat you different based on the energy you put out. That's true. If you put out the energy like, I know who I am and I know what I am, and, you know, how can I put this to you? When I say this, I don't want you to be offended.
No, you're good.
You look, how can I put it? You don't look like a person who will take something, bust them on their face. Right. But hold on, let me make sure I'm clear on this. I've been back home around people who look like you that will kill people. Yeah. Right? Yeah, so the looks just don't mean they don't mean anything. Right, so I'm saying to you is like this. People do things with people who they think they can get away with. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Opposed to, so like let's say you there is me, you, Poppy, a whole bunch of other Atlanta dudes, right? Or you got Gucci Man with you, know what I mean? Yeah, just use somebody who got the stereotypical, the stereotypical of what media have trained the masses to think we are. Right. You have that. You ain't saying that to Gucci. You ain't saying that to 50. No. You ain't saying that to DMX because you think that they a certain way. But what you don't understand, intellect, strength come in different shapes and sizes. Right? Am I I'm sorry.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%.
But so you brought up your mentor.
Yeah.
What's his name?